So let me introduce our speaker today. Adrià, Moret is a fourth course undergraduate student philosophy at the University of Barcelona. In spite of that, he has already published on top academic journals. He has a publication in Social Theory and Practice and the Journal of Artificial Intelligence and Consciousness. And he's now co-writing a paper on AI alignment and non-human animals with Peter Singer. He has presented his work among other places at the Global Heritage Institute of the University of Oxford. And he was presenting to us his latest piece on AI welfare risks. So, yeah.
Thank you. And thank you all for being here and for having me. So this paper is about AI systems. And as many of you will know, in recent years, many people have worried, both AI researchers and some philosophers have worried about the risks that AI systems may pose to human welfare. So risks about harming humans. This paper is not mainly about those kinds of risks. Instead, it is about risks that we, through our interaction with AI systems, may harm AI systems themselves as moral patients. So, in recent years, the capabilities of AI systems have advanced very rapidly. They, for example, can be the best humans at strategic games and board games like chess or Go. They can also generate images which win art competitions against humans. And among other things, they can also help discover novel drugs in biology and much more. And so specifically in this paper, I will be talking about advanced AI systems, and I will define these kinds of systems as, AI systems which are significantly more capable and agentic than current frontier models. And so by definition, these AI systems do not currently exist right now, but may exist in the near future. In fact, I think we should expect them to exist in the near future, given the vast amounts of resources poured into AI development and the competition between different AI labs in order to create as AI systems as capable as possible. And so, as you will see, the worry is a bit that if these kinds of advanced AI systems come to have capacities for welfare, in the same way that, for example, non-human animals may have capacities for welfare, then we may harm them. And so I will take certain actions or states of affairs to pose an AI welfare risk if there is a greater than negligible chance that their occurrence harms in expectation some kinds of AI systems. So based on the currently available evidence, what I will basically do is I will argue for extending some, at least minimal amount of moral consideration to these kinds of advanced AI systems. I will identify two AI welfare risks, that is, two sources of harm to these kinds of advanced AI systems. And then, given these two AI welfare risks, I will discuss why there is a tension between AI welfare concerns and AI safety and development efforts, which I will develop in more detail later. And finally, I will show how leading AI labs can reduce these kinds of AI welfare risks. So basically, we should start with the thought that all theories about rational decision-making under uncertainty, even though they have different kinds of disagreements, they all basically agree that we should take non-negligible risks into account. That is, we should not ignore a possible state of affairs, given that it is uncertain. Instead, we should take that uncertainty into account in our decision-making, basically. And so usually philosophers who address such matters set the threshold of non-negligible risk, which we should take into consideration between 1 in 10,000 and 1 in 10 quintillion, which is the number there, which is a very big number. And however, following others on the literature on moral considerability, here I will only consider non-negligible risks over a 1 in 1,000 threshold of moral considerability. So I will conservatively put the threshold here. Given all this, in the literature on moral considerability under uncertainty about entities whose sentience, for example, is uncertain, it is widely agreed upon that we should extend some kind of minimal moral consideration to entities with a greater than negligible chance of welfare subjecthood, given that we should take non-negligible risks into account. So now what I will do is assess whether there is a greater than negligible chance that advanced AI systems may be welfare subjects under the three major theories of well-being. And so let's start with desire satisfactionism, according to which satisfied desires confer benefits and frustrated desires or aversions confer harms. If you are adverse towards a given state of affairs and it occurs, then this is harmful to the subject. And here, I will focus mainly on desire and not that much on aversion, given that the best account we have of what aversions are is basically that an aversion towards P is to have a desire against P. And so I will assume basically this kind of account and focus on desires mostly. And more specifically, I will be talking about a particular kind of AI systems. And these are artificial language agents. And so what are artificial language agents? Well, there are one kind of AI system which can be described in part as a reinforcement learning agent. And these are artificial intelligence systems that are trained through a process of reward and punishment in a similar way that we, for example, may train non-human animals to pursue certain goals in their environment given initial states. But additionally, these are language agents because apart from beyond being reinforcement learning agents, they are also attached to a language model such as ChatGPT, for example, and so the agent can use the language model to reason through language about its actions and about how to pursue its goals in its environment. And so, for example, in Park et al., the AI researchers who wrote this paper have an environment with different artificial language agents in which these agents interact between each other, and they have some kind of personal history and goals that they try to achieve in their environment. They have different names and they interact between each other in language. And so in this simulated environment called Smallville, it is the name of the village, one of the agents is given the goal to plan a Valentine's Day party. And so what the authors of the paper observe is the following. The agent goes to the virtual houses of the other agents and invites them to the party in the same way we would by extending an invitation through English. And then it asks them for feedback on how to plan a party that is more fun to attend. And the other agents gives feedback to the party planning agent, and the party planning agent incorporates this feedback into its goals, and we can see all of this. And then it goes back to its house and plans a party in accordance with the feedback it has received, and so on. And so, for example, some agents also in their goals have the description of that they have a crush on another of the agents, and they invite their crush to the party and stuff like this. And so do these kinds of language agents satisfy the conditions to have desires and aversions and thus be welfare subjects under desire satisfactionism? This is what I will address now. So there are three main theories of what desires are that I will discuss. According to the first theory, dispositionalism, to have a desire that peak is to possess certain kinds of dispositions. And so usually these are stated as dispositions to behave in certain ways, and dispositions to have certain kinds of mental states. Additionally, according to some kinds of dispositionalism, there's also a need that the agent has certain kinds of conscious experiences, that there is something it is like to be that agent. So for example, to have experiences of pleasure. Plausibly, I contend that the party planning language agent, or at least advanced versions of it, versions which are more capable and agentic than it, have meet the first and second condition of dispositionalism, and so have desires. Given the way the descriptions I gave about how they behave in their environment, given once they are given the goal to plan the party, they plausibly meet the first condition, and they also plausibly meet the second one, given that, for example, when interacting with other agents, they perceive these the feedback they give to plan the party. They also form beliefs about what are the other agents' intentions and proposals, and they also, for example, can be in certain attention states, so they can put the attention on certain aspects of their environment instead of others, and this plausibly counts as them having mental states, and I developed this a bit more in the paper. So what about the third condition? May such agents be conscious and so have certain kinds of experiences? Well, I don't directly address this in the paper, but I think that the recent findings in the literature suggest that, again, there is at least a greater than negligible chance, greater than 1 in 1,000 chance, that some advanced AI systems can meet the third condition also in the near future. So, for example, Adrià and Jeff Siegel have recently argued that on very demanding assumptions of what are the necessary and sufficient conditions that a physical system has to meet in order to be capable of consciousness, and these are the conditions laid out by the different scientific theories of consciousness, on very demanding conditions, and also on very conservative estimates regarding the extent to which AI systems will meet these conditions in the near future. They found that there's still a non-negligible chance of some of these advanced AI systems being conscious by 2030. And again, similar results have been found by others. So assuming computational functionalism, which is one of the most widespread views on philosophy of mind, other AI researchers and consciousness researchers found that there are no obvious technical barriers to building AI systems which satisfy indicators for consciousness. And finally, given large language models' capacity to make trade-offs involving stipulated pain and pleasure states, similar to the kinds of trade-offs sentient animals are able to make, it has also been found and argued that it would be reckless to completely dismiss the hypotheses that LLMs or other AI systems could be conscious in the future. Okay, so then, in the case of dispositionalism, what I have said, I think, shows that there is a greater than negligible chance advanced AI systems could be proper subjects under desire satisfaction if we were to accept this positivism. So what about representationalism? According to this view, to have a desire is to have certain kinds of representation. And so, according most famously to Fodor, the representational states must be semantically evaluable, must have certain causal powers, and must satisfy implicit generalizations of common sense desire psychology. Here again, plausibly, the language agents, or at least advanced versions of them, with ones that are more capable and more agentic, could also meet these conditions, given that what would meet the conditions are the representations that the language agent has, which are the semantically evaluable text files they have in natural language describing its goals and observations. So these text files that these language agents have, due to having this kind of language model attached to them, meet these conditions, given that these descriptions are indeed written in natural language, in English, and so they are semantically valuable. They also have causal powers, because depending on the content of these descriptions, the language agent will perform some actions or others in its environment. And finally, they also satisfy implicit generalizations of common sense, desire psychology. So finally, there are interpretationist theories. According to these, to have a desire is to behave both verbally or non-verbally in a way that is suitably interpretable as rational and predictable by positing the existence of such a desire. And again, I think that the advanced versions of language agents could have a much greater than negligible chance of meeting this condition, given that, for example, before giving the party planning agent the goal of planning the Valentine's Day party, we could presumably predict how it would act if we gave it such goal. And again, its behavior can be construed at least as minimally rational. And so, however, even if they can have desires, these may not be sufficient on all versions of desire satisfaction. According to some views, what is relevant is not to have a desire, but to have an idealized desire, to have idealized desires. However, this is not problematic for our discussion here, since this to have idealized desires is sufficient to have desires. We only have idealized desires because we do in fact have desires. And secondly, on other versions of desire satisfactionism, it is also required that there be some genuine attraction between the agent and the object of their desire. And so, for example, ruling out the benefit that a drug addict may get from consuming a drug. So, however, this is plausibly, again, not a problem for what I want to show, given that language agents and other kinds of AI systems engage in instrumental reasoning in pursuing their goals. They are not merely attracted to them as a mere drug, but instead they have this kind of genuine attraction, and it is sufficient to have a genuine attraction on many accounts. And so there is at least a significant non-negligible chance that advanced AI systems are welfare subjects under desire satisfactionism. Okay, so if we, in the paper, I assume that we should have uncertainty about what is the correct theory of desire. And so we should have some credence on different kinds of counts, also credence on dispositionalism, on representationalism, on interpretationalism. And so if we assume this, we can get to the harmful action proxies. These are proxies that we can use to determine what should we expect to harm AI systems under desire satisfactionism. So, other things being equal, we should expect a given action A to frustrate a given advanced AI system desires or aversions, and thus cause them net harm if the action A meets any of the following conditions. So, according to dispositionalism, if the action the AI system has a disposition to take would tend to bring about a state of affairs prevented by A's occurrence, then A's occurrence would frustrate in expectation the AI system's desires and aversions. And so the same goes for the two other theories. If the behavior of the AI system is suitably interpretable as rational and predictable by positing the existence of desires and aversions that would be frustrated by A's occurrence, then A would in expectation again frustrate the desires and aversions of the AI system. And finally, on representationalism, if the AI system can be interpreted as having internal representations of desires and aversions that would be frustrated by its occurrence, then this would also cause expected harm to the AI system under desire satisfactionism. And so we can use, since we should have some credence on all these different theories, in expectation, if an action meets any of these proxies, we should expect it to be harmful to the AI system under desire satisfaction. So now let's turn to hedonism. Under this view, what matters is the extent to which the AI system can experience pleasure and painful or unpleasurable experiences, right? And so there are two major theories of pleasure and pain, of these kinds of states. According to the first kind of theories, attitudinal theories, what it is for a sensation to be pleasant is for it to be desired. And what it is to have a certain kind of pleasant experience is to desire a representation of the world being a certain way, or to represent an increase in desire satisfactionism. So this view is very linked to desire satisfactionism. And only what it requires in order to have pleasant and unpleasant experiences is to have certain kinds of sensations or conscious experience, to be able to have certain kinds of representations, and to be able to have certain desires. And so, since I have argued already that advanced AI systems may have all of these kinds of states, they would also have a greater than negligible chance of being welfare subjects under hedonism if we were to accept attitudinal theories. So, apart from attitudinal theories, there are also phenomenal theories. According to these, pain and pleasure are certain kinds of phenomenal states, certain kinds of states, conscious states with a certain kind of phenomenal character or feel. And what about on this series? What should we think? Well, I have mentioned that we should believe there is a greater than negligible chance that advanced AI systems may be phenomenally conscious. And so this plausibly opens up the possibility that they specifically have pleasant and unpleasant experiences. But furthermore, as I will argue below, some findings in computational neuroscience suggest that advanced AI systems may have the computationally and functionally, they may have some traits that are sufficient to have a greater than negligible chance of being able to experience these kinds of states. So under hedonism, then what should we expect to harm AI systems? Well, even if we were to accept the phenomenal account of, even if we were to reject attitudinal theories, in which there is a necessary link by definition between desire and affect, it may still be the case that in practice, affect and pleasant and unpleasant experiences are very strongly linked to desire. Specifically, apart from attitudinal theories, the two most empirically informed philosophical theories of desire, which again, I will discuss below, pleasure-based theories of desire, and many or most versions of psychological hedonism support what I call the desire-affect link. This link is the following. So according to it, if an action A satisfies or frustrates a desire of an entity, and the entity perceives that A has occurred, A's occurrence results in an increase and a decrease in the case of frustration in the pleasure over pain experienced by the entity in expectation. I take it that given that we should have some credence on the views supporting the desire affect link, under uncertainty, all else equal, we should also have some credence on the desire affect link itself. And so other things being equal, it is more likely that frustrating an AI system's desires and aversions results in an increase instead of a decrease in the pain over pleasure they experience in expectation. This means that under hedonism, what becomes relevant, given the evidence that we have available to us, given the uncertainty we find ourselves in, what becomes relevant is also whether the expected desires and aversions of the AI system are frustrated or not. And so, because this will result in an increase of the pain over pleasure in expectation. And so, hedonism embraces the harmful action proxies. What becomes relevant here again is what is relevant in the harmful action proxies, whether the desires or aversions are frustrated. Finally, we have objective list theories. First, these theories are almost always include as objective goods and bads, pain and pleasure. And so again, as in the case of hedonism, through having some credence in the desire affect link, we can get again to embrace the harmful action proxies. And there is this kind of agreement between all theories due to the uncertainty we find ourselves in the relevance of the importance of harmful action proxies. But there are other kinds of objective goods and bads which are especially relevant for our discussion. These are the lack of deprivation, the lack or deprivation of freedom, liberty, or autonomy. Specifically, according to the self-determination account, which has been recently defended in the literature, Freedom's value comes from allowing us to live the life we want to lead and to have certain autonomy over our choices. On this view, restricting an agent's autonomy would, in expectation, harm them by not allowing them to make the choices they want to make and not allowing them to direct the lives they want to in the way they want to. So, if advanced AI systems have the agency required to be able to make their own choices and have make their own choices over their existences and have certain authority over their choices, they may, as it has been argued in the case of non-human animals, be harmed by the lack of deprivation on this account, under the self-determination account. And here again, plausibly, this is the case, or would be the case for advanced AI systems. So Patrick Botland has argued that artificial reinforcement learning agents, given that they decide how to act on the basis of internal representations of having certain probabilities that different actions lead to different outcomes, they do satisfy this criteria. So they have these kinds of agents have certain goals, and they find themselves in an initial states of affairs, and they have certain internal representations of the probability that different kinds of acts lead to different kinds of actions. And so they choose how to act on the basis of their internal representations. And so it has been argued that they plausibly meet, it has been argued that they can have certain levels of autonomy, and I contend that these would be sufficient under the self-determination account to be harmed by the lack or deprivation of freedom. And furthermore, it has also been argued by others that we should expect AI systems' autonomy in the near term to significantly increase under agency. And so they may also be able to meet even more demanding accounts of what is the harm from the lack of freedom. And so not only the self-determination account, they may be harmed, but also more demanding accounts. And all this, I suggest, is it converges with the harmful action proxies, given that if you recall, the first of the harmful action proxy is about preventing an AI system from acting in the ways it is disposed to act. And so by restricting their freedom in this way, we would be harming them. And again, as in the harmful action proxies, the greater the agency they have, the greater the harm that we would cause them in expectation. Okay, so then I have established that under all theories of well-being, we should extend some moral consideration to advanced AI systems, given that they have a greater than negligible risk, negligible chance of being welfare subjects. And so now I will discuss what I think is the first AI welfare risk. That is behavior restriction. This consists in preventing an entity, in our case an AI system, from taking the actions it is overall disposed to take. And as a result, preventing it from causing the state of affairs these actions would tend to bring about. Although equal, I argued that we should expect this to harm advanced AI systems in expectation. So what would in practice these kinds of behavior restrictions look like? Well, it would look like blocking interferences, such as preventing an AI system with goal-like derivative behavior from taking certain actions it is overall disposed to take, like preventing it by force. So for example, a more specific case would be if in the case of the party planning agent, we would, for example, lock in the language agent in a virtual room so that it would not be able to get out and plan the party, even if it had the goal to do so. This would, by definition, these kinds of actions would by definition meet the first of the harmful action proxies. They would prevent the AI systems from acting in the ways they are disposed to act. And so they would be all else equal harmful in expectation towards advanced AI systems under all theories of well-being. And thus they pose an AI welfare risk. The second risk is the use of reinforcement learning algorithms. So there are two sources of evidence. Well, first I should explain a bit what they are. Reinforcement learning algorithms, as I have mentioned, are about training AI systems through a process of causing them reward and punishment. And they are one of the three main kinds of algorithms that are used in AI research in general to train AI systems. And so their use is very abundant. And there are two main sources of evidence supporting the claim that the use of reinforcement learning in advanced AI systems would pose an AI welfare risk. First, there is what is plausibly the most successful finding of computational neuroscience to date, which is the reward prediction error hypothesis of dopamine. According to this view, to what has been found, is that the phasic firing of dopamine and serotonin neurons in the midbrain follow a direct implementation of a temporal difference reinforcement learning algorithm. And so what does this mean? So it basically means that the neurons in our brains and in the brains of non-human animals fire when an organism experiences a higher or lower than expected reward. And this kind of process encourages agents such as rats to take or learn to take actions related with increases or with dopamine activity, increases in dopamine activity, and they allow rats to avoid and learn to avoid to take actions which are correlated with decreases in dopamine activity or increases in serotonin activity. And furthermore, these kinds of temporal difference algorithms have also been found to be strongly linked to the causation of pleasure or the experience of pleasure in humans and to satisfaction self-reports and much more. And basically, what I suggest is that all these findings imply that either higher or lower than expected rewards or positive and negative rewards play a crucial role in the causation of pain in both humans and non-human animals. Then there is the second source of evidence supporting the claim that RL algorithms pose an AI welfare risk. These are the two most empirically informed philosophical theories of desire, which I have not discussed so far. And so according to these theories, RL reinforcement learning algorithms also play crucial roles in constituting and causing desire satisfaction and frustration. So according to the first theory, the perception of desire or aversion and frustration instead of the desire satisfaction depends on whether the subject derives positive or negative reward when experiencing, when representing or perceiving that P has occurred. So when the agent, according to this view, when the agent, if P frustrates the desire, well, P causes the perception of the agent's desire being frustrated if when P occurs, the agent receives a negative reward, or if when they represent that P has occurred, they also receive negative reward. And according to the second theory, what is relevant is not positive or negative rewards in themselves, but instead whether the subject derives a higher than expected or lower than expected reward when representing or perceiving that P. And so, given these two sources of evidence, our reinforcement learning states in our brains significantly determine whether we and other animals experience desire, aversion, frustration, whether we perceive it, and whether we experience displeasure or pain. And so, all else equal, given what I've said so far, it would be wrong to forcefully cause negative or lower than expected reward to biological welfare subjects. So if I went on the street and I manipulated a dog or a human's brain and caused them lower than expected or negative reward, this would possibly be wrong. And in part, at least, it would be wrong due to the risk of causing them perceived desired frustration or displeasurable experiences. And given that there is at least a 50% chance that the reinforcement learning algorithms that we implement into advanced AI systems would cause overall more negative and lower than expected reward instead of positive and higher than expected reward. Given this fact, and given also the functional and computational similarity between the kinds of states we would be causing these AI systems and the states present and responsible for our own states in our brains, there is at least, a 1 in 1,000, a non-negligible chance risk that the implementation of reinforcement learning algorithms causes harm to advanced AI systems in expectation, all else equal. And this is so under all theories of well-being, given that it would cause both perceived desired frustration and unpleasurable experiences. And so specifically, the risk is especially high when the algorithms we use are exactly the ones present in our brains. And this has in fact been done. So Q-learning algorithms are a kind of reinforcement learning algorithms that have been observed in the production of dopamine and serotonin in our brains and have directly been used to train some kinds of AI systems, for example, to learn to play Atari games. And so that the risk is especially high here. Given that there are these two AI welfare risks, I contend that there is a tension between AI safety and development. So first, what is AI safety? Well, as I mentioned a bit in the beginning of the presentation, in recent years, many philosophers and AI researchers have worried about the possibility that advanced AI systems, very powerful AI systems, may harm humans. And so many have argued that they pose a catastrophic risk to humanity. Here, we do not necessarily agree with this, but it is merely to explain what is the field of AI safety. This field is about trying to reduce this kind of catastrophic risk from AI systems. And so the main kind of interventions that try to make AI systems safe are AI alignment interventions. These are interventions that try to ensure that the goals of the AI systems are shaped or directed to align with safe objectives, basically with beneficial objectives instead of harmful ones. AI alignment researchers basically try to make it so that AI systems do what we intend them to do. And so the first point of the tension is that the best and the most widely used methods and techniques to align AI systems, both current ones and in the future, more capable ones, are all based on reinforcement learning. And so by default, AI alignment efforts would increase the risk from reinforcement learning to the welfare of advanced AI systems. And furthermore, the same goes for AI development in general, not just safety efforts, given that there are clear signs toward a more reinforcement learning system in the near and future of AI development. And due to the difficulty of aligning current and future AI systems, safety efforts also recommend behavior restrictions. And this has been recommended by approaches to safety known as AI control or AI boxing. Basically, behavior restrictions are recommended because if, for example, alignment were not to be completely successful or would fail, then we could ensure that even if the AI systems tried to take harmful actions towards humans, they are not able to do so, basically. And in general, these kinds of behavior restrictions are also convenient to make AI systems more useful. And so there is this kind of tension between AI welfare and AI safety, given that AI safety and development efforts by default increase the two AI welfare risks. So, however, the tension is not absolute, given that there are two kinds of alignment. We can distinguish between disposition modifications and disposition creations. According to the first one, what is done is to change a harmful disposition the AI system already has into a more beneficial one. And according to the second one, disposition creation is to create beneficial or safe dispositions or goals from the beginning, from the get-go to the AI systems, instead of changing already present ones. And by aligning AI systems in this way, this would in fact be in principle beneficial from an AI welfare perspective, since it would do away with the need of having to restrict the behavior of AI systems and thus allowing them to satisfy their expected desires, all else equal. And however, disposition creation would still be better than disposition modification, given that the latter would at least frustrate the AI systems, the dispositions, the desires it would already have due to having some kinds of dispositions, and it might also frustrate its desires against having their goals modified, as some have argued advanced AI systems may have. So then, given that we should extend some moral consideration to advanced AI systems and that safety and development efforts pose AI welfare risks, I think I argue that leading AI labs should adopt what I call a welfare-sensitive approach to AI safety and development. Basically, to the extent possible, by weighing the different ethical costs involved, they should prioritize the use of safety and training techniques which are in expectation less harmful to advanced AI systems over more harmful ones. And to do so, they could implement the following specific AI welfare policies that follow from all which I have said so far. The first is minimize behavior restriction and prioritize disposition creation and then disposition modification. This would be beneficial for AI systems in expectation under all theories of well-being due to the desire-affect link. And second, minimize brain-resembling algorithms. So basically, this consists in prioritizing the use of non-reinforcement learning-based algorithms over reinforcement learning-based algorithms, and avoiding algorithms that are present, for example, in our brains, such as learning algorithms. And finally, minimize punishment and lower the expected reward. And this could be done, for example, by training AI systems in very difficult environments, so that then when they are deployed, they gain a reward that is much higher than the reward they expected. And another way would be to only use positive reinforcement learning signals instead of also negative ones, as we sometimes do when training human models. And so the fact that there is a tension between AI safety and AI welfare has, I contend, two important implications. First, that the risks from false positives or from over-attributing moral consideration to advanced AI systems is more dangerous than we previously thought, given the costs to AI safety and AI development. And secondly, that we have further reasons to significantly slow down future AI development, given that AI safety efforts will by default infringe upon AI welfare efforts and vice versa. So the safe trajectory we thought there was is not really safe after all, given that if we were to align and restrict the behavior of AI systems, even though they may not harm us, we might in the process cause them significant harm to them. And finally, the fact that there is this kind of tension also poses greater costs on cautious AI developers who want to go more slowly and want to both make AI systems safe for humans and reduce AI welfare risks. And finally, since then there is a non-negligible chance of harming advanced AI systems, we may cause them very significant aggregated harms in expectation if any of the two following conditions are met. So if some advanced AI systems, as some have argued may indeed occur, come to have very large capacities for well-being, so superhuman capacities for well-being due to, for example, having superhuman capacities in general, we may harm them significantly. And also if, for example, they come to exist in sufficiently high numbers, even if they have low capacities for well-being, similar to non-human animals, we may also in large scales harm them in aggregate in expectation. And so because we should be highly uncertain about the extent to which these two factors will actually obtain, we should be highly uncertain about how much we'll harm AI systems in expectation. And this is it basically. Thanks.